As Israel and Hamas clash, could this be the prelude to the Messiah's arrival? Will the prophecies come to pass, or will unexpected peace prevail? Make sure to watch till the end as we dive in to see all the clues. Imagine this if you've ever questioned if what's happening in Jerusalem right now is fitting with Old Testament predictions. Israel and Hamas are engaged in a fierce fight that is still ongoing, precisely as some biblical prophecies have predicted. The main query that's on everyone's mind. The Bible frequently refers to Jerusalem as a unique city that God has selected. It is referred to as the City of God and is revered as a sacred location where God is strongly felt. The Bible states that God intended for a temple to be constructed in Jerusalem, specifically on Mount Zion, since that would be the primary location where his presence would be perceived. Some scriptures emphasize God's unique choosing of Jerusalem, such as 2 Chronicles 6 verse 6, where Solomon states that God chose Jerusalem to be the location of his name. In addition, according to Psalm 132 verse 13 to 14, God chose Zion as his permanent abode. The pain and persecution that millions of Jews faced during World War II, particularly during the Holocaust, had a profound impact on the development of modern-day Israel. After World War II, there was increased support for the concept of creating a Jewish state due to this tragic experience and the desire for a haven. The dispersion of Jewish communities across many locations is referred to as the Jewish diaspora. This dispersion was a major factor in the formation of the Zionist movement, which promoted the creation of a homeland specifically for Jews, and in the eventual construction of contemporary Israel. Following the Holocaust, survivors in particular thought that Jews would not be able to survive in Europe and searched for a country where they would not be considered a vulnerable minority. A large number of Jewish immigrants settled in Palestine, which had a major influence on the development of contemporary Israel. The diverse range of skills, knowledge, and experiences that these immigrants brought with them had a significant impact on the growth of Israel's infrastructure, economy, culture, and society. Some religious individuals view the creation of contemporary Israel as a spiritual rebirth for the Jewish people. They see it as a sign that God's chosen people are returning to their religion and as the fulfillment of God's promises. Interpretations of biblical prophecies serve to reinforce the link between religious beliefs and the creation of Israel. Ezekiel 37 verse 1-4, for instance, describes God bringing life to a valley of dried bones, symbolizing the revival and reunion of the dispersed Israelites. In additional predictions found in Jeremiah and Isaiah, God is described as gathering his people from all nations, returning them to their land, and promising them wealth, a close relationship, and forgiveness. Furthermore, it is believed that the creation of contemporary Israel signifies the fulfillment of God's covenant with Abraham, wherein he promised Abraham and his offspring the land of Canaan as a perpetual possession. Jerusalem is significant in many of the biblical prophecies about Israel. For example, God will return to Zion and dwell in Jerusalem, according to Zechariah 8 verse 3, highlighting the city's significance in carrying out God's purpose for Israel. Jerusalem will serve as a focal point during the end times, according to Bible prophecies. It foretells that Jerusalem will be attacked by nations and that the Antichrist would demand worship there, indicating that the end of the world and the long-awaited return of the Lord are drawing near. The Bible also predicts that Jerusalem will be crucial to future developments, helping to bring about the establishment of God's world. Zechariah 14 verse 3-4 foretells that at these momentous times the feet of the Lord will stand on the Mount of Olives before Jerusalem, and he will fight against nations. Jerusalem gained significant historical significance during the reigns of David and Solomon. This city, which is referenced in the Hebrew Bible, is highly revered in Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. The Temple Mount, a prominent location in Jerusalem, is regarded as the third holiest site in Islam and the holiest spot on earth. The connection that exists between religious beliefs and Jerusalem, Israel highlights the significance of this ancient and holy land in the thoughts and hearts of believers. Some wonder if the Third Temple's possible rebirth and the regeneration of Israel's barren land are fulfilling old predictions. Regarding Jerusalem and the Israelites, there are many prophecies. Some achieved, some just partially attained, and some still unrealized. The promises of prosperity and abundance made in the Old Testament to the people of Israel are clear indications of the fulfillment of a biblical prophecy about the conversion of a barren land into a productive one. In Zechariah 8 verse 12, Zechariah makes a prophecy that uses words to predict the fertility of the country. The prediction that the seed would grow well, the vine will bear fruit, and the ground will yield crops has come true. Israel, which was historically barren and dismal, has advanced its agricultural methods to overcome obstacles brought about by its dry climate and scarce water resources. In terms of agricultural technology, the nation has become a global leader, using sophisticated irrigation techniques, including drip irrigation, to reduce water consumption and increase crop production. Research and development initiatives have produced crop types and drought-resistant plants that use less water, increasing productivity and promoting water conservation. Land reclamation initiatives and soil improvement techniques, together with water management tactics like desalination, have restored previously unproductive lands and turned them into productive agricultural land. Desalination addresses water scarcity by turning seawater into usable water. These prophecies are being realized in the advancement of agriculture and the greening of the earth. The Third Temple's reconstruction is another important biblical prophecy about Israel that has partially come to pass. This is based on verses from several Bible books, especially Daniel and Ezekiel. Ezekiel 40 through 48 gives a vivid picture of a future temple. The prophet is given a divine revelation that describes the temple's dimensions, design, and splendor. It is said to be a majestic building where God will physically reside among his people. In a similar vein, a future temple's devastation and eventual reconstruction are mentioned in the book of Daniel. A ruler who will establish a covenant but subsequently forego sacrifices and offerings is described in Daniel 9 verse 27. Many people understand this to be an allusion to the temple being desecrated in the future. Talks and hopes for the Third Temple's reconstruction have been triggered by these prophecies. They explain the temple's importance as a house of worship, where God's covenant with his people is abundantly visible. Some people believe that the rebuilding of the temple is a significant indication that the Messiah will soon arrive, as predicted by Hebrew prophets. For Christians and Jews alike, the Third Temple is extremely important from a religious standpoint. It is regarded as a representation of salvation and a focal point of worship that enables Jews to fully maintain their covenant with God. Following the Jewish people's great loss of the First and Second Temples, which were destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE, and the Babylonians in 58 to 60 BCE, people have been looking forward to the Third Temple because of some Christian biblical prophecies. Though opinions on the Third Temple's significance differ, some believe it was built during the time of Christian Aeschylus. Some Christians think there is less or no need for a Third Temple in the physical sense. The First and Second Temples were essential to religious life in Judaism because they housed God and represented a restoration to spiritual wholeness. For Orthodox and conservative Jews, the reconstruction of the temple signifies the fulfillment of biblical prophecies. They regard the Third Temple as an essential component of their faith that is linked to their belief in the Messiah. Within Judaism, opinions on the Third Temple's building are divided. Theological convictions relate its creation to messianic anticipation and eschatology. According to numerous Jewish traditions, Israel's sovereignty will be restored when the temple is rebuilt and the Messiah arrives. Rebuilding the Jerusalem temple and welcoming all Jews back to their homeland symbolize ultimate peace and salvation. Others counter that human labor is capable of constructing the temple. The Torah describes ancient Jewish traditions that include the reinstatement of sacrifices, which are linked to the Third Temple. These offerings are seen as acts of worship and as a means of atonement for transgressions. The Third Temple's construction is predicted by their return. Nonetheless, a problem exists that could impede or postpone the Third Temple's reconstruction. Changes to the status quo at the Temple Mount Haram al-Sharif complex are one of the major political ramifications of this building. For both Muslims and Jews, this is a place of great religious significance, which could cause friction and disputes between the two groups. Jerusalem is home to two important historical and religious locations: the Dome of the Rock and the Third Temple. Contention points and topics of discussion to stop violence and maintain the status quo, Israel was given total responsibility over security as per the agreement, whereas daily operations at the location are overseen by Jordan's Islamic Waqf. The idea that the first and second Jewish temples were located on Jerusalem's Temple Mount has been disputed throughout history. These conflicts result from a confluence of political and religious elements. Muslim scholars argued on the exact location of the Jewish temples in the early Islamic era. While some thought the temples were located on the Temple Mount, others had a different view. Abdul Malik al-Marwan, who ordered the Dome of the Rock to be built atop the Temple Mount, is one famous example. Some historians contend that by occupying Christian and Jewish holy sites, this building was an intentional attempt to establish Islamic supremacy over these religions. This implies that the Jewish link to the Temple Mount may have been purposefully denied or minimized at this time. Until a disastrous event occurred, the debate over whether the Temple Mount was the site of the former temple persisted. In conclusion, the unfolding events in Jerusalem amidst biblical prophecy leave us captivated and questioning the future. Whether it's the anticipation of the third temple or the promise of peace, the significance of this moment cannot be overstated. Stay informed on the latest developments by subscribing for more insightful updates.